what they said?
Right, which is completely unplausible.
You and I both know that's a bunch of BS.
Right. There are cameras in every hallway. Look, when you're in Vegas, there are cameras on you 24/7. 24/7 in every spot, everywhere, in and around the Strip, all the way to downtown. I don't know of any black spots anywhere in Vegas. Where they have black spots, you'll see those tall little police standalones just so that they can put cameras in the spots where they think they have black spots.
I worked in a casino for a very long time, and my job, I had to go to surveillance quite a bit to view transactions. So I know exactly what's going on up in those surveillance rooms. I know exactly how many cameras, not exactly how many cameras, but you know what I mean. There are cameras everywhere.
Let's just go with the number enough.
Right. There are so many cameras in those places, and every nook and cranny of that hotel is under the microscope if they want it to be.
Correct.
So
that would question. Okay, let's go with a situation. We don't have to call it a drug or gun or whatever situation. Let's just say there was a situation being monitored by another party. Right. It's a widget at this point. We don't know shit. So let's keep it with the basics. So Stephen was doing some form of business. That business went horribly astray. They're using this as a cover to get their asses out of the room and safely away. That's a lot of people. Let's say that it's at least, based on the amount of shooting, I would like to say at least a couple of people, okay?
I can't disagree with that.
Okay, he's right by the back exit, so he's certainly got the staircase. There's a staircase on that side, right?
Yeah, but supposedly the staircase was barricaded, and that's why SWAT couldn't get up the stairs. Exactly, Lee. That's what I'm saying. Look, I want to believe Lombardo. I love the Metropolitan Police Department. These are good, hardworking men and women, the guys that are on the street.
I think LVPD was swept out of this early on. I think the FBI swooped in.
And that's why my anger, as you well know, has been focused on Agent Rouse. And because I have such a I'm so deep into the investigative research on Fusion GPS and the dossier and all that other stuff, and all of this stuff just started to connect with where Rouse came from and who his mentors are, because that tells a lot about who he is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So
a guy that
clearly what it looks like is he's in over his head, certainly,
or he's trying to protect the agency because this is one of their assets, and this whole thing went sideways.
Okay, all very plausible. Now, here's the question that I really want to know. And you've been on the web and you've researched this. What are the crazier conspiracy theories that are floating around out there?
The craziest one for me has to be that this was an assassination attempt of Crown Prince bin Salman from Saudi Arabia.
I've never heard this one. I heard you float this earlier. Explain this one to me.
All right, so the top 4 floors of the Mandalay Bay are owned by Prince Al-Walil bin Talal,
Correct.
Who is considered the 19th richest man in the world, Saudi tycoon, a big-time player in the royal family, but he's been pushed out of power, and now he's in prison. Now, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is only 32 years old, and up until this point, it was always brothers of the king, the original King Saud, who became the new crown prince and the king, up until bin Salman. So what's happened now in Saudi Arabia is bin Salman is playing a modern day Game of Thrones.
Okay.
He is with his father, who is the king, who has dementia and Alzheimer's and has all kinds of problems. With his father's blessing, he has deposed all of these crown princes below him, and he has put them in prison for corruption. He said that they owe the state of Saudi Arabia over $100 billion and more even. So what's going on is bin Talal is the key player in this whole entire thing. So what people are floating is that what happened at Mandalay Bay was that Prince Mohammed bin Salman was at Mandalay Bay for some event, and this was an assassination team that was brought in by bin Talal to get rid of bin Salman here in Vegas. And that right away I was like, why would they do it on American soil? It doesn't sound right. There's no proof that he was even in the country.
This is horribly slow. Okay, let's say that I hire X SAS or X whatever, okay? Right. You're going to get somebody at least of SEAL level or better if you got the right money. I know that if I had the money right now and I wanted to extract a human from any part of the world, I can round up a pretty decent SEAL team in my spare with my spare change.
All you'd have to do is call what's it called? The guys that were over in Iraq. Those guys are insane. Blackwater.
Right. Those guys all know what they're doing. They're all former everything. This would be the sloppiest assassination attempt ever.
For sure. This would be a monumental failure.
This is this would almost be on the comedic level. I mean, it's that sloppy of, okay, well, hey, let's just shoot into the crowd and mask this to get out of Dodge.
Yeah, remember the movie like Hot Shots?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of storyline that is. Right when I heard it right away, don't get me wrong, it would be an interesting Tom Clancy novel.
If he was at the concert, it would be more plausible.
Well, what they use as their proof is there's a video of someone at the Tropicana being escorted by what looks like a strike team. And one of the members of the strike team has a mohawk, but he's dressed in Metro uniform, right? Uh-huh. So what happens is they're walking through the Trop, and they completely they secure the Tropicana as they're walking through, and they're in formation that you would see like military guys in. So they're walking with these people, and then once they have it secured and have everybody with their hands up, two guys split off from the Metro cops and walk out of the picture and walk somewhere else. And one of those guys has a beard and black hair, and I guess from the video you could kind of, if you're really reaching, could make him out to maybe be Middle Eastern. But the thing that threw me off right away was he had tattoos on his legs, it looked like in the video. And we know that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia isn't all tatted up.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a good theory. I mean, I want to hear...
I want to hear them all, too.
I want to hear them all, too. It's better than anything else. I mean, I have nothing with the side of nothing.
Yep, exactly. And, it's one of those things that, obviously, I don't put too much plausibility behind, but it's certainly not something that I would just discount out of hand, considering that, bin Talal had that connection, with the owning those floors. But it comes down to me, what it really comes down to with that whole entire conspiracy theory there is that it's just so not plausible to me that the Saudi intelligence, which are American trained, by the way, would ever even attempt something like that on American soil. Not with Donald Trump as president.
All right. With all of that said, what is required reading for everybody out there so that they can do their own investigation?
What you guys have to do is go to your internet and type in Doug Poppa, DougPoppa. Read all of his articles. Read what he has to say. Go look up Laura Loomer, LauraLoomer. Look up what she has to say. She was the one that got Lombardo to change the timeline originally from the 28th to the 25th. She came up with a valet ticket. She found out that he was the one he checked in earlier than they first told us. So she might be a firebrand, and she might, be, let us say, a bit to the right of even Rush Limbaugh. But she's doing really good work on this Las Vegas investigation. And, she's not even a native here, and she's really putting it on the line for Vegas. And it's definitely worth reading what she has to write. And a lot of her stuff's being posted on medium.com, so you could go check her stuff out as well. But what I really implore you guys to do is do your own research. Like any of the names that you hear over and over and over and over in these type of investigations or situations, just start researching them. If this is something that interests you, you sit down and just start Googling these people and seeing what their ties are. And inevitably you see all these people that are in these positions of power. You see the nepotism in the government and in the bureaucracy of government under a microscope, because all these same players, you hear the same names in all these institutions. Lee, it's almost like NFL coaches, the way they just get traded around.
Yeah, I completely agree. The same names always do pop up. What, in the case of these two writers, have they formed, these two journalists, forgive me, have they formed theories that they're working from, or are they just trying to unearth evidence?
Well, I think Laura Loomer leans more towards the Islamic fundamentalism angle, but she thinks, and this is something I'd like to discuss too, because I think that this is plausible as well, and I probably should have brought this up. I think that it's definitely plausible to believe that Stephen-Paddock was radicalized on one of his many trips to the Middle East or over to the Philippines. So if that's the case, then he could have been someone who was inspired by ISIS. You know what I'm saying? And that's totally logical as well, because
is that
you see
really a thing? I mean, now I'm going to be as skeptic as I can. I find it hard to believe that people can be radicalized.
No,
I think you're already in that position. You already hate what the country's become. And, just sort of like the dark, or in the words of the Joker, all you need is a little push.
Yeah, there's that saying like, when you put a sword in a man's hand, he becomes a beast. And it's definitely true. That kind of stuff's definitely true. But with this whole entire radicalization thing, and, this is my bread and butter. This is what I actually went to school for, Near East policy. And the understanding of the radicalization from Islam it's very hard to explain how it takes root. It's almost like brainwashing into a cult. And what happens is these guys start watching some of this footage on the internet, and they start watching videos by guys like Anwar al-Awlaki, who they have, let me tell you what, silky smooth deliveries, Lee. If you don't know what you're listening to and you're the kind of guy that's already fired up and you're pissed off at America and you're mad that you're not getting a fair shake in your mind, it's not that hard to become radicalized. It's really not. It really depends on the mental state of the person. And, of course, according to these people, Paddock was, kind of a crazy guy. So the radicalization process is something that it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens gradually. And on all these different trips to the Philippines, and that's another thing that I've been interested in that I haven't seen any information about. Who was he associating with over in the Philippines? We have plenty of assets on the ground in the Philippines. We should know where he went, who he was with. Who did he meet up with on these cruises? Who was on the cruises with him to the Middle East?
Well, that's if we're tying in the Philippines, just for everybody to understand, that is about as right as the right gets. They live in a society that is so far right that it's right of right. They execute drug dealers and drug users in that country. Like their idea of the law is pretty far out to the right. I mean, it's interesting that the Philippines gets drawn into the conversation, but it doesn't seem to hold to the narrative of somebody who's a leftist.
Well, that's really not true, because what happens is these leftists now, they hate America so much that they're looking for any vehicle to use to propagate their hate. And I'll tell you what, there's been so many different reports, so many different investigative journalists have reported that Antifa and radical Islam are working hand in hand. And all you have to really do, Lee, is look at some of these marches and look at the groups that have come together under one banner. It's a scary mix of all the who's who of the cultural Marxists and the dangerous, violent progressives. Let's not forget what people like the Weather Underground did in this country. Let us not forget. So the radicalization process could have begun with as simple as, I don't care for Trump, or I don't care for the way the country's going, and it could have morphed from there. He could have went to the Philippines and met one of Mary Lou Danley's friends who was in Abu Sayyaf. There's a whole basically civil war going on in the Philippines right now because of Islam. Duarte is going crazy. He's bombing the hell out of these guys. But, Abu Sayyaf, they've been kidnapping Americans and Westerners forever over there now. And they claimed their allegiance to ISIS. They're part of the caliphate. There's a big part of Afghanistan now that's the caliphate has pushed. They've pushed the Taliban out of regions in Afghanistan. So you see, the radicalization process for these guys, it happens to these people, and it's you always hear the same thing. Oh, I would have never guessed it. Oh, I would have never guessed that John would have decided to go over and become a terrorist. I mean, look at that rapper from Germany, Desi. He was a famous rapper. He became radicalized and went over and ended up getting killed in Syria. The draw of religion, I guess, is what I should say to guys like me and you, Lee. It's like, what are you guys, insane? But to some other people, who knows what the motivations in their brains are? Who knows what makes them tick?
Okay. I'm with you. So what should we expect to see coming out have you gone through the 300 pages yet?
I haven't been through all 300 pages, but I've been through the ones that the ones that have been in the news for the most part, because like I said, I don't just trust what I read. I want to go back and actually source this stuff.
So what we know from that is more than likely it sounds like the brother's going to be indicted along with
Danley for sure.
Yeah, with Danley for sure. That Danley absolutely knew that something was happening. And she took actions to remove her digital footprint just before she was contacted by the FBI. We know that for sure at this moment.
And we know for sure that he was checked in under her name.
Okay.
So, she's aiding and abetting. Now, let me ask you a question. If this was somebody who was living in, East Side Las Vegas, and he was over at his boy's house, and he